Hello, my name is Noemi Camps. The title of my action research is Plant Outdoor Activities Improve Science Learning for First Grade Minds. My research question was, will plant outdoor activities such as scavenger hunts and outdoor lab learning experiences led by myself, the classroom teacher, in a charter school in Homestead, Florida, as measured by pre and post tests for three consecutive science lessons and a learning experience survey collected in the form of outdoor scavenger hunt booklets, outdoor labs, and outdoor cloud foldables lead to increased academic gains in the science learning for 17 first grade students. The purpose of this action research was to identify and implement a new strategy that would help first grade students improve their science grades and learning interest during science lessons. The action research was completed in a matter of 4 weeks. 17 students were present during the time of this study. The study was completed in a charter school down Homestead, Florida. All 17 students participated in 3 post-tests for each topic that they had to complete in order to determine their prior knowledge of the various science topics that would be discussed that week. The innovation of the investigation was to promote outdoor activities for science learning. Outdoor activities help students in the learning process in various ways. As a researcher, I wanted to discover if indeed outdoor activities will help promote learning and grades for science. As a teacher, I wanted to apply outdoor activities for the learning of science and truly understand what it took to create outdoor activities that would really target student learning. During this investigation, I used a mixed method because I used observation to determine students' engagement, and students completed pre-tests and post-tests, teacher-made tests, a survey, and a curriculum exam. After the pre-test was taken, the topic was introduced along with a scavenger hunt booklet. For topic 1, all students participated in this activity. Students were introduced to the topic of living and non-living things. Students were taken outside to complete a scavenger hunt of all living and non-living things. Prior to going outside, students had to create a hypothesis on what they predicted they would find more of, living or non-living things. When students were outside, they were to find as many living and non-living things as they could with a partner. The second week, a pretest was taken and a new topic was introduced, and the outside lab was completed for 4 weeks for topic 2. As the school garden was due for renovations, I decided to take the opportunity and reteach students about the different plant roots, given that this fell in the curriculum pacing guide for that specific week. Students were taken to the garden in groups of 3. Each group had to pull out a plant that had either a fibrous root or a taproot, which of course I had already labeled for them. They were to examine the plant roots, then use another group plant root and report their findings. So they were going to mix each other's groups, and they had to swap their plant roots and see, determine what a fibrous root looked like and what a taproot looked like. Because each group had one. Each group had a reporter, writer, and observer, and all collaborated with each other in writing the report. They had to describe and draw the fibrous root and the taproot. Final week, a pretest was administered after the topic was introduced. Students participated in an outside cloud foldable activity for topic 3. During week 3 of the research, students learned about the different types of clouds and were given a cloud foldable booklet. Students were then taken outside and asked to observe the clouds that were present that day. Students had to identify, draw, and explain what clouds they observed that day in the sky. After each outdoor activity was completed, their post-test for each, and they completed their post-test for each topic. At the end of the week, the regular curriculum-based science test was given to determine students' knowledge and understand the topic discussed. The goal of the action research was to improve students' academic gains, such as grades and learning interest during science, which was accomplished with the use of a scavenger hunt as an outdoor activity, an outside lab, and a cloud foldable activity. After all activities were completed, a Likert scale survey was administered using the smiley face scale for children. Students reported their enjoyment of science before and after outdoor activities, as well as their enjoyment of outdoor activities and if they preferred indoor activities instead. The results of this action research was that indeed students learned, gained interest, and obtained better science grades when working in outdoor activities during science. In research, the dependent variable is what is measured in the experiment and what is affected during the experiment. The dependent variable that are present for this research are the weekly curriculum test grades. The weekly curriculum tests are considered the dependent variable because they will help me understand if the application of the activities help raise students' grades. The independent variable in a research study is a variable that does not change in the study because it stands alone and it does not change by the other measured variable. As far as the independent variables goes, the three planned outdoor activities would be considered the independent variable. The reason the three planned outdoor activities are considered the independent variable is because all three activities are varied and manipulated by the teacher researcher. Using the previous three weekly science test grades, an average was determined for each student in order to determine learning. Students took their regular science curriculum weekly tests and scores increased from previous test grades, averaging as a class at an 86%. The initial three consecutive weekly curriculum tests demonstrated that the class had an average of 75 in science prior to completing the action research. As for the pre-tests administered, the class scored a class average of 72% for all three pre-tests prior to activities. The post-tests determined a gain in knowledge, averaging at a 90% class average. The three consecutive weekly test grades during intervention show that the class averaged an 85% on test grades. This demonstrates the class gained a 10% grade average on weekly test grades. A 95% of students answered in the survey that they preferred outdoor activities rather than indoor activities as well. Some possible reasons for student gains is that they enjoyed the activities being presented and could relate to the new information through the usage of the new activities. The action research was conducted, in my opinion, was a good action research, but is not a perfect one. Many questions can be raised about validity and reliability. Some of the issues that I encountered during this study was that the amount of time spent on the study, materials used, and the difficulty of the topics could all raise a question of validity and reliability. Some questions that arose where will planned outdoor activities work for a longer period of time, given that the study was only conducted really in 3 weeks? My second question was, do students gains higher test grades because the weekly curriculum tests got easier? That's actually a question that I raised myself. Was it because the weekly curriculum test got easier? Did the topic get easier? Was this the reason why students understood? Or is it really because the outdoor activities really affected their learning and helped them gain, better test grades when taking the curriculum weekly exams? Some questions were the topics discussed easier for students. Given that three different outdoor activities were used, how can the teacher ensure that using proper outdoor activities will engage students and help them raise science grades? There wasn't a consistency of activities used. They were all outdoor activities, but there was no consistency of, this is the same activity I'm going to use for 3 consecutive weeks. They were all hands-on planned outdoors activities, but they weren't consecutive activities used. So how can you determine the reliability and validity of each of those, activities? Is it an activity that you're using properly to measure what you want to measure for that week, for that topic? One of my biggest concerns with this action research was the time spent on the study. I don't think it was enough time. I think that me as the teacher, I need more time in order to determine if this, in fact, is what is causing higher test grades. Something I would change is that what I would probably, as my first grade team, ask my first grade team to work with me in the study in order to cross-reference our findings. I think I can get my team involved, and we could cross-reference our findings and see if, in fact, that helps you have more reliable and valid results at the end. I would also like to ensure that the materials I am using for the planned outdoor activities are reliable and valid, since they're really, teacher-made tests. These teacher-made tests have a higher margin of error. I would also like to determine the difficulty for each topic. Was one topic easier than the other, how I discussed? In my opinion, this was a good action research that I opened the doors to. However, I did open the doors to more questions and further research in my classroom that I can actually use what I learned in this action research for other topics such as math, you know, that students have difficulty with, and I can apply it in those subject areas. Thank you very much for watching my action research description, and have a wonderful day.